You speak to yourself all day long, and most of the time you do it like an enemy. That is the truth you have been avoiding. You walk, you work, you sit in silence, and inside your own skull a running commentary follows you, judging you, limiting you, reminding you of every mistake you have ever made. No one else hears it. No one else corrects it. It is the only voice that is with you from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep. And you have let it talk to you in a way you would never allow from another man. Then you wonder why your confidence is thin, why money seems distant, why every new idea dies before it is born. Your life is not only shaped by what happens to you, it is shaped hour by hour by how you talk to yourself about what happens. You are not poor only because of wages, circumstances, or misfortune. You are poor in mind because your inner language has been trained to think in terms of lack, fear, and defeat. Listen to the phrases that have become your habit. I never catch a break. Men like me do not become wealthy. If something goes wrong, it will be in my life. I would try, but I already know how it will end. These sentences sound innocent. They are not. They are orders you send into the deepest part of your mind, and your mind obeys them like a faithful servant. It begins to filter your attention, your decisions, and your actions to match your instructions. You say, nothing works for me, and immediately become blind to anything that could work. You say, I am not the type to handle money, and act accordingly. You must understand how serious this is. Your subconscious mind does not laugh when you mock yourself. It does not shrug when you curse your own future. It records, it accepts, it treats repetition as law. When you tell yourself the same story often enough, your subconscious stops asking whether it is wise and simply begins to build your behavior around it. The man who constantly repeats, I am clumsy, proves himself right by careless movement. The man who constantly mutters, I cannot sell, stumbles and stammers in every opportunity. This is not superstition. It is psychology. Thought becomes word. Word becomes habit. Habit becomes result. No one has shown you how to use this process to your advantage. You have been taught how to speak to others, how to be polite in company, how to make conversation in public, but no one sat you down and said, the most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Guard it, guide it, discipline it, so your inner talk grew wild, like a field no one tends. Old insults from your childhood took root, harsh words from parents, teachers, and failures sprouted into beliefs. You watered them every day with new complaints and new fears. Now you stand in the middle of that overgrown field and call it your personality. It is not your personality. It is your untrained mind. A rich mindset is not first a bank balance. It is a different way of talking to yourself about who you are, what is possible, and how you will respond. It is the habit of using your inner voice to build rather than to break. The man with a rich mindset is not the one who struts about bragging. He may speak very little to others, but inside he gives his mind clear orders. When he meets an obstacle, his inner voice says, this is difficult but not impossible. There is a way through, and I will find it. When he makes a mistake, he does not hiss, idiot. He says, you misjudged. What can you learn? Now get back in the fight. When money is tight, he does not repeat, I am finished. He tells himself, I will put my affairs in order. I will think instead of panic. I will use this pressure as fuel. You may think, that sounds like pretending. It is not pretending. It is choosing which side of the truth to emphasize. The poor mind looks at the setback and says, here is proof that I am doomed. The rich mind looks at the same setback and says, here is proof that I still have work to do, and that I am still in the game. The facts are the same. The inner speech is different, and it is the speech that determines whether the man continues or quits, learns or sulks, grows or shrinks. Over time, that difference becomes as great as the difference between drought and harvest. Understand this. You will never build a rich life while speaking to yourself in the language of a victim. Every time you say, "They never let me," "Life is against me," "I am not allowed," you strip yourself of power. You place all control in the hands of others, then resent them for holding it. A rich mindset speaks in the language of responsibility. It says, "I have made poor choices. I can make better ones. I have wasted time. I can redeem time. I have been ignorant. I can learn." This language does not flatter you. It does something better. It returns the steering wheel to your hands. Look at the way you talk to yourself about money itself. Perhaps you say, "Money is dirty. Money is for the greedy. Money changes people for the worse." Then in the next breath you say, "I want to be wealthy." Your subconscious hears the first set of sentences more loudly. It believes that money is dangerous, so it keeps you away from it to protect you. Whenever you move toward abundance, you sabotage yourself because a part of you is convinced you are heading toward moral ruin. You cannot build a rich mindset until you correct this contradiction. You must begin saying to yourself, "Money is a tool. In corrupt hands it does harm. In honest hands it does good. I intend to be one of the honest." Reflect on the words you use when you think of rich men. Do you define them as lucky, crooked, born into privilege, cold-hearted? Or do you say, "They have learned something I have not yet learned. They have practiced something I have not yet practiced. I will study, not envy, and I will take only what is worth imitating." One set of thoughts keeps you on the outside, pressing your face to the glass, arms folded. The other opens the door and says, "If they learned, I can learn. If they built, I can build." Your inner talk decides whether wealth is a foreign country or a destination. You must also face a hard truth. Your self-talk about your own abilities has been lazy. You have said, "I am just not good with numbers. I am not the kind of man who can negotiate. I cannot understand business. I am too old to change." These are lies of comfort. They excuse you from effort. Every time you repeat them, you dodge the responsibility to learn. A rich mind replaces these dead-end statements with living ones. "I have not yet learned to manage numbers well. I can. I have not yet practiced negotiation. I can. I do not yet understand business deeply. I can begin today. My age means I must work urgently, not that I must stop." Notice the difference. One tone ends your growth, the other demands it. Your current inner language was not chosen by you, it was absorbed. You heard your elders speak with bitterness or fear. You watched neighbors complain and blame. You moved among men who laughed at ambition or whispered that the system would never allow them to rise. Those voices found a home in you. They are not truly yours, yet you have been carrying them as if they were sacred. From this moment, you must begin the work of clearing them out. This is not disloyalty. You can love those who spoke wrongly and still refuse to repeat their errors. How do you begin? You start by treating your thoughts as if they belong to someone else, asking your advice. If a younger man came to you and said, "I am cursed. I can never improve. There is no point in trying," what would you tell him? You would not say, "You are right. Stay as you are." You would tell him he is speaking foolishly. that his mind is working against him, do the same for yourself. When you hear such words inside, answer them as you would answer him. Do not simply feel them. Talk back, that is not true. I have failed, but I am not failure itself. I have been poor, but poverty is not my name. I can change direction. This is the turning point. You must stop confusing your inner voice with truth. The fact that a thought appears in your mind does not make it wise, just, or inevitable. It is just a thought. You are free to reject it, correct it, or replace it. In the past, you treated every inner sentence as a judge's verdict. From now on, you must treat it as a witness whose testimony may be mistaken. You are the judge. You decide which statements are allowed to shape your future. Think of your mind as an estate that has been neglected. The walls have graffiti. The rooms are cluttered. The garden is overgrown. Your first job is not to build new towers, it is to clean. Every time you catch yourself saying, I cannot, I never, I always fail, you are wiping off a mark of vandalism. You do not yet need a perfect phrase to replace it, you need an honest one. I have not succeeded yet. That does not mean I never will. I have failed many times. That means I know several ways that do not work. I will try another. These sentences are not fantasies. They are more accurate than the old ones. As you practice this, you will slowly feel a new kind of quiet strength. You will notice that you no longer collapse as quickly when plans change or when a day goes badly. Your inner critic will still attempt to speak, but you will not bow to it. You will answer it and move forward. This alone will separate you from most men. The majority are ruled by automatic thoughts they never examine. They believe every dark whisper that passes through their mind. You will be different. You will hear the whisper, measure it against your purpose, and either accept or reject it. That is mental wealth. Do not expect applause when you begin this work. No one will pat you on the back for replacing I am hopeless with I can learn. No one will see the small victories when you shut down self-insults or choose a stronger phrase in the middle of disappointment. This is unseen labor. It takes place in silence. But understand this. Every coin of gold that ever came into a man's hand, honestly, was preceded by such unseen labor. Before his business changed, his mind changed. Before his circumstances rose, his language rose. He began to speak to himself as if he had a future, and then he acted in line with that speech. You stand at the same beginning. Your pockets may be light. Your surroundings may be humble. Your past may be tangled. But the instrument with which all riches are first formed, your mind, is still in your possession. You can continue letting it speak to you like a defeated servant, or you can begin talking to it like a commander who has decided to lead his life instead of merely endure it. The money, the opportunities, the connections will come later. The rich mindset must come first, and it starts with the next sentence you allow to live in your head. Now that you see how carelessly you have allowed your inner voice to run, you must put it under discipline. You will not build a rich mindset by waiting for positive thoughts to appear. They do not arrive by accident. They are drafted, trained, and drilled. You must become, in effect, the general of your own inner army. And the first thing a general does is take a clear roll call of those under his command. Until now, most of your thoughts have been deserters and saboteurs. They have been working for your fears, not for your purpose. That ends when you decide it ends. Begin by choosing, with cold clarity, what you want your mind to believe about you. Not fantasies, not wild boasts. Clear, strong, honest, convictions that will make you more effective. For example, I am capable of learning anything necessary for my advancement. I am responsible for my financial condition and capable of improving it. I am persistent. I finish what I begin. I grow calmer and sharper under pressure instead of weaker. These are not ornaments, they are instructions. You will not merely recite them, you will lay them like rails in your subconscious so that your behavior begins to run along them. To do this, you must engage three elements at once: words, repetition, and feeling. Words alone are not enough. You have already mouthed empty phrases in the past, short bursts of enthusiasm that faded by the next morning. Repetition alone is not enough. A parrot can repeat without transformation. Feeling alone is not enough. Mood rises and falls with weather, meals, and chance events. But when you take carefully chosen words, repeat them often, and speak them with a definite feeling of decision, you are engraving new patterns on your mind. That is autosuggestion in its true form. Set aside times each day when you will talk directly to yourself with intention. Not when you feel inspired, especially when you do not. Upon waking, while your mind is still quiet, sit up, put both feet on the floor, and give yourself your own orders for the day. Say, "Today I will not speak one word against myself. Today I will interpret every difficulty as training instead of punishment. Today I will direct my thoughts toward my chief purpose." Becoming a man who creates value and handles wealth wisely. Do not murmur these lines half asleep. Pronounce them so that your own ears understand you mean them. At first you will feel foolish. That is your old voice sneering. This is childish. This will not change anything. You are the same man you have always been. Answer it at once. If speaking against myself for years helped shape my failures, speaking for myself with discipline will help shape my success. I have been foolish in allowing the old phrases to run free. I will be wise in choosing new ones. Then continue. You do not argue with the old voice for long. You overrule it. Your self-talk must be simple and definite. Do not cloud it with long speeches. Pick a few powerful lines and drive them in like nails. For example, my mind is my greatest asset. I will not use it to attack myself. I look at my money with clear eyes. I know where it goes. I am building habits today that will support wealth tomorrow. I am the kind of man who finishes. Each statement leaves no room for vagueness. Your subconscious understands plain orders. Give them. During the day, you must be ready for ambush. Your old thought patterns will not leave quietly. They will strike at familiar moments. When you make a mistake, when someone criticizes you, when you look at an obligation, when you feel tired. In those moments, you are likely to fall back into sentences such as, "I knew I would fail. I am not cut out for this. Nothing ever changes. What is the point?" Do not let those words pass unchecked. The instant you catch them, cut them off. Replace them with your new orders. Suppose you misplace an important document or forget a detail in your work. The old voice says, "You always do this. You are hopeless." Seize it and answer, "No. I made an error I can correct. I am becoming more careful each day. I will put a system in place so this does not happen again." Then take an action that matches those words. Create a list, organize your materials, write a reminder. You have now used self-talk not only to prevent damage to your self-respect, but to direct your behavior toward improvement. This is how a rich mindset grows. Word followed by action, repeated until it becomes character. Pay special attention to how you talk to yourself about your time. A poor mind constantly tells itself, I have no time. Everything is a rush. I am always behind. These phrases create a feeling of constant pressure and helplessness. You end the day exhausted and resentful, convinced that your circumstances stole your hours. A rich mind speaks differently. My time is limited, but it answers to me. I can decide what is important. I will use blocks of time on what builds my future, not only on what screams loudly. When you hear yourself say, I have no time, you must correct it immediately. I have as much time in the day as any man. I must choose where it goes. If my hours are scattered, I can gather them. In practical terms, this means ordering your thoughts before you order your tasks. Take a few minutes at the start of each day to speak your priorities aloud to yourself. First, I will complete this essential work. Then I will attend to this obligation. This other matter can wait. It is not urgent. You are not only making a list, you are giving your mind a structure to operate within. When distractions rise, your inner voice can say, no, this is outside today's plan. The same self-talk that used to scatter you can now corral your attention. Another area where your language must change is in how you describe your past. Many men keep their failures alive by talking about them as if they happened yesterday. They say, I always make bad choices. I lost everything once. It will happen again. I trusted and was betrayed. I will never trust anyone. This is the talk of a man who has turned his history into a prison. A rich mind does not deny the past, but it speaks of it as raw material, not destiny. It says, I have failed and paid dearly. That payment purchased experience. I am wiser now. I will not waste that purchase by repeating the same blindness. When a painful memory rises, you have a choice. You can rehearse the injury, or you can rehearse the lesson. The first keeps your wound open. The second builds scar tissue that is strong. Teach yourself to say, that event hurt me and humbled me, but it did not destroy me. I walk differently because of it. I see more clearly because of it. It was costly, but I will not throw away what it bought. This is rich self-talk. It accepts the bill and keeps the knowledge. Your inner language about other people also shapes your mindset. If you tell yourself, everyone is selfish, no one can be trusted, those who win must have cheated, you create a world in which cooperation is impossible and opportunity is always suspect. That is the mindset of a man who will sit in the corner and watch life from a distance. A rich mind is more precise. It says, some men are selfish, others are fair. My task is to discern the difference. Some fortunes are built on greed, others on service and discipline. My task is to study the second and avoid the first. These sentences keep you from falling into bitter generalities that paralyze action. Practice this precision. When you hear yourself say, people always let me down, correct it. Certain people have let me down. Others have supported me. I will improve my judgment in choosing whom to trust. When you are tempted to say, the world is against me, correct it. The world is indifferent. It responds to value, persistence, and order. If I increase these, more doors will open. If I refuse, I will remain where I am. This is not cruel talk. It is adult talk. It invites you to grow instead of inviting you to complain. Now turn your attention directly to money. Many men secretly speak to themselves about money as if it were a force that plays games with them. Whenever I get ahead, something happens. Money hates me. Bills appear out of nowhere. This is childish language. It turns coins and notes into mischievous spirits. A rich mind speaks of money as what it is: a measure, a tool, a result. It says, money comes in when I create and deliver value. It goes out when I exchange it for needs, wants, or waste. If I respect it, it will respect me. If I handle it carelessly, it will leave. When you catch yourself saying, I cannot afford anything, replace it with, I am choosing not to spend on this now. My priority is to strengthen my position. One statement declares total helplessness, the other declares control. When you think money is scarce, correct it with, money is scarce in my life because my skills, discipline, or understanding are still scarce. I can change that by study and effort. In this way, your inner talk turns every complaint into a task. Complaints drain. Tasks direct. You must also discipline how you talk to yourself when you see another man enjoying wealth. A poor mind whispers he does not deserve it. It must have been handed to him. He must have cheated. Even if these things are sometimes true, repeating them makes you spiritually smaller. It trains your mind to believe that success is always crooked. Then when you move toward success, you feel guilty and slow yourself down. A rich mind answers, if he has built something real, there is something I can learn. If his wealth is unjust, time will test it. My concern is to build mine on clean foundations. Try this experiment. Whenever you feel jealousy arise, instead of feeding it with ugly words, say to yourself, his success does not diminish mine. The supply of opportunity is not fixed. I will examine what he did well and ask what I must improve. Then put your attention back on your own path. The more you practice this, the less power envy will have over you. Your energy will move from grumbling to growth. That is rich thinking. Understand that none of this matters if you do not tie your self-talk to action. If you tell yourself, I am disciplined, while living in chaos, your mind will eventually rebel. It will mark your words as lies and ignore them. The way to avoid this is to choose phrases that demand action each day. I am a man who keeps his word must be followed by keeping at least one small promise to yourself daily. I am a man who respects money must be followed by writing down what you spent and earned. I am a man who learns must be followed by opening a book, studying a skill, or reviewing your results. When word and action match, the subconscious believes and cooperates. Start with small, concrete commands that you can obey even on a poor day. For example, today I will not call myself names. Today I will record every coin that leaves my hand. Today I will spend 15 minutes studying something that can increase my usefulness. These are not grand claims, they are bricks. Lay them daily. After several weeks, you will be able to say with more strength, I am becoming a man of order, a man of learning, a man of self-respect. You will have proof. Proof gives weight to your self-talk. Weight gives it power. Guard also the tone in which you speak to yourself. Some men think they are being realistic when they're simply being cruel. They lash themselves inside, believing that harshness will force them to improve. In truth, it only weakens their spirit and makes them secretly loathe effort. A rich mind is firm but not vicious. It says, you have been lazy. That must stop. But it also says, you are capable of better. Now move. It does not indulge in insults. It issues commands. You are not a dog to be beaten. You are a soldier to be drilled. Speak accordingly. Over time, as you persist in this work, you will notice that your inner talk starts to change even when you are not consciously directing it. A difficulty will arise, and instead of your old chorus of curses, you will hear, slow down, think, there is a way. An expense will appear, and instead of, I am ruined, you will hear, this is why you are strengthening your foundation. Adjust and continue. This is the sign that your subconscious has begun to accept the new language as normal. You are no longer forcing every sentence. Your mind is beginning to generate rich talk on its own. From the outside, nothing dramatic may yet be visible. Your clothes may be the same, your dwelling the same, your work the same, but inside, the soil has changed. Seed planted in this soil will grow differently. Plans will be pursued with more persistence. Opportunities you would have dismissed as not for me will now be examined. Mistakes that once sent you into hiding will now send you to your notebook to extract the lesson. All of this begins in the way you talk to yourself when no one else is listening. You will have setbacks in this discipline. There will be days when you speak to yourself as brutally as ever without catching it until the evening. Do not turn that failure into another weapon. Do not say, I cannot even change my thoughts. I am hopeless. That is the old language trying to pull you back. Instead, say, today I forgot my post at the gate of my mind. Tomorrow I will return to it. I have already seen that I can do better. I will repeat that. Not this lapse. Then prove it the very next morning by resuming your practice. Remember this. Every rich life rests on invisible pillars. Those pillars are convictions about self, about effort, about money, about failure, about possibility. Convictions are poured in words and hardened in action. Until you take control of those words, you are letting someone else design the pillars under your own house. That is no way for a man to live. A man who intends to rise must seize that right for himself. He must say, from this day, no sentence will live in my mind unchecked if it makes me smaller, weaker, or more helpless. I will strip my language of excuses and fill it with direction. Once you take that stand, you are no longer the victim of your thoughts. You are their author. And an author can revise. An author can strike out what does not serve the story and write in what does. The story you are writing is the story of your mind becoming rich before your purse does. When your mind has been trained to think like wealth, calmly, responsibly, creatively, persistently, the outer wealth will have something solid to rest upon. Without that, any coins you gather will be temporary guests. With it, they can become servants. Your self-talk is where that training begins and where it is maintained day after day, without applause, but with immense reward. You have begun to see that you are the author of your inner speech. Now you must learn to use that authorship with greater precision. A man does not become rich in mind by repeating a few pleasant lines in the morning and then allowing chaos the rest of the day. He must learn to talk to himself differently in the specific arenas where poverty has ruled him. In his work, in his use of time, in his handling of difficulty, in his dealings with others, and in his relationship with desire. Each of these areas has its own old phrases, like weeds with deep roots. Each must be dug out and replaced. Start with your work, for most of your waking hours are spent there. A poor mind approaches work with an inner groan. Another day, the same struggle. I am forced to do this. Every such thought weakens the muscles of your spirit. You become heavier before you lift a hand. A rich mind will not permit such talk. It says instead, This is my present field. I will not curse the soil in which my future grows. I will use this work to train my discipline, to sharpen my reliability, to prove that I can be trusted with more. You may not love the task, but your inner language can still turn it into training rather than punishment. When you find yourself muttering, "This is beneath me," you must answer, "If I cannot master this, how will I master more?" That is not a surrender to low conditions. It is a refusal to let pride steal your preparation. Many men remain poor because they waste years despising the very duties that would have built the habits required for higher positions. They are too proud in their thoughts to be trustworthy in their actions. Your self-talk about work must constantly remind you, I am not here to be entertained by my labor. I am here to be strengthened and to create value. If I prove faithful here, I qualify myself for more. Next, examine how you talk to yourself when you are alone with your thoughts and your leisure. You have told yourself, I need to escape. I deserve to forget my worries. I will rest now and think later. Rest is necessary. But a poor mind turns rest into flight. It spends every spare moment feeding on distraction, then says, I have no time to think. A rich mind uses leisure as a tool. It says, I will give my body rest, but my mind remains my servant. I will take a portion of this quiet to reflect on my day, to plan, to review my results. When the temptation comes to drift into thoughtless idleness, you must say to yourself, this hour is too precious to be lost entirely. I will enjoy it, but I will also harvest it. You will discover that even a small change in how you talk about these moments transforms their value. Instead of saying, I have nothing to do, say, I have a space in which to grow. Instead of thinking, I will simply pass the time, say, I will invest this time, even in small ways. Then act on those words by picking up a book that expands you, by writing your thoughts, by examining your spending or your progress toward your aim. In doing so, you teach your mind that leisure is not a hole to fall into, but a field to plant in. Now consider how you speak to yourself in the presence of hardship. This is where most men's inner poverty reveals itself. At the first sign of trouble, they cry inwardly, why is this happening to me again? I cannot endure this. This always happens at the worst time. They pour fuel on the fire with their own tongues. The problem may have been manageable, but their inner talk inflames it until it appears monstrous. You must train a different response. When difficulty arises, your first inner words should be calm, breathe. This is another test of my growth. I have passed tests before. I will examine this one. Teach yourself to say, nothing is improved by panic. This sentence is a sword. It cuts through the first wave of fear. Then speak the next line. There is a cause to this. There is a response available to me. My job is to find both. Instead of repeating, this will ruin everything, repeat, this is unwelcome, but not final. I may lose some ground, but I will gain knowledge if I stay awake. The event itself does not decide whether you gain or lose in the long run. Your inner speech decides by shaping your response. There will be times when hardship presses so fiercely that your old phrases spring up like reflexes. You will hear, I cannot go on. This is too much. Do not pretend you are not thinking it. Acknowledge it and then answer it. I feel as if I cannot go on. Feeling is not law. Many men have endured more than this and kept moving. I will take one more step and then another. Speak these words even if they sound hollow in the moment. You are placing stakes in the ground for your will to hold on to. Without them, you are swept away by emotion. Your inner language in these moments must also protect you from the poison of self-pity. Pity says, "No one else suffers like I do. Life singles me out. I am a special victim." That may feel comforting for an hour. It gives you an excuse to stop. But self-pity is the most expensive comfort on earth. It steals years. A rich mind will not tolerate it. When you hear it forming, cut it off. Hardship visits every man. I am not chosen for misery. I am invited to grow. I will not decorate my suffering and call it identity. Then ask, what is the next clear action I can take? And command yourself to take it. Pay careful attention to how you talk to yourself about other people's opinions. Many men remain poor all their lives because their inner voice is enslaved to what others might think. Before they take a step, they ask themselves, will they laugh? Will they approve? Will they talk? Then they shape their actions, not by their own purpose, but by imagined reactions. Your self-talk must liberate you from this invisible prison. Start saying to yourself, I answer to conscience and purpose, not to chatter. Those who misunderstand me do not carry my destiny. That does not mean you ignore all counsel. A rich mind values correction from those who know more, but it speaks differently about it. When criticized, it says inwardly, is there truth here? If there is, I will absorb it without self-hatred. If there is not, I will set it aside. What it does not say is, this comment defines me. When you feel your stomach churn because of another's opinion, talk directly to that reaction. You are afraid of rejection like a child. You are not a child. You are a man shaping his life. Some will approve, some will not. You will not halt your growth for fear of their words. These sentences steady your hand when cowardice tug at your sleeve. Now, we must address the way you talk to yourself about desire, because nothing reveals a man's inner government like the moment he wants something strongly. Desire for comfort, for pleasure, for luxury, for recognition. These can make a coward of the wisest mind if he has never learned to speak to himself with authority. Up to now, you have often said, I want it, therefore I must have it. Your inner voice has been the servant of appetite. A rich mind reverses this. It says, I want it, now I will decide whether it serves my chief aim. When you feel drawn toward frivolous spending, tell yourself plainly, this purchase satisfies a moment, my aim requires years. Which matters more? When you are tempted to impress others with show, instead of quietly building your foundation, say, I am not a jester performing for the crowd. I am a builder. I do not trade bricks for applause. At first, such sentences will feel harsh, but you will notice they leave you with more self-respect than any indulgence could. You will walk away from the unnecessary purchase or the foolish display and say, I commanded myself and I obeyed. That feeling is the seed of inner wealth. Your self-talk must also guide you in the formation of habits, for habits are the outer clothing of your inner beliefs. A poor mind talks as if habits were accidents. I simply am this way. I cannot help it. It is just how I am. A rich mind refuses such laziness. It says, every habit I have practiced into existence. If I can practice one way, I can practice another. When you catch yourself saying, I always stay up too late, I always arrive late, I always avoid the hard task, correct it with, I have been arriving late because I allow myself excuses. That practice ends. I can be on time if I prepare earlier, and I will. Then begin the new practice at once. Tie your self-talk about habits to time. Say, for the next 30 days, I rise at this hour, whether I feel like it or not. For the next 30 days, I write down every coin. For the next 30 days, I will not speak one insult about myself. Now, each morning and each evening, remind yourself of this pledge aloud. I am the man who is in the middle of 30 days of discipline in this area. Do not let this promise dissolve into fog. Your words must keep it in front of you like a standard carried into battle. When you complete even one such period, your mind learns that your tongue can be trusted. That trust is priceless. As your inner speech becomes more disciplined and constructive, you will discover something surprising. You feel less exhausted, not more, at the end of the day. This seems strange, for you are now thinking about your thinking. You are engaging more effort. But the exhaustion you once felt did not come from effort alone. It came from wrestling all day with a voice that attacked you, mocked you, and dragged you downward. Fighting yourself is the most tiring work of all. When your inner talk becomes your ally instead of your enemy, the same amount of outward labor feels lighter. You are no longer dragging a protesting mind behind you. You are being pushed from within by agreement. This internal agreement also changes how you respond to opportunity. In the past, whenever a new possibility appeared, a chance to learn, to invest, to propose an idea, your inner voice shouted warnings. You will fail. They will reject you. This is not for you. By the time you finished arguing with yourself, the opening had closed. Now, your self-talk must be trained to answer opportunities differently. Teach it to say, examine this. Measure the risk. If you can afford the loss and the gain is worthy, step forward. When fear rises, say, fear is a signal, not a command. This simple sentence breaks fear's spell. It acknowledges the feeling without surrendering to it. Follow that with, I will not make this decision to satisfy my fear. I will make it to serve my purpose. Then weigh the facts. If the opportunity aligns with your aim and you can bear the cost of failure, instruct yourself, move. Do not allow another string of inner excuses. Each time you obey such a command, you prove to your subconscious that it can trust your leadership. That trust will make it easier to act the next time. Your self-talk must also shape how you see yourself in the long span of your life. Too many men speak as if their story were almost over before it has truly begun. They say, it is too late for me. I have wasted too many years. Every time they repeat this, they shorten their future and shrink their effort. A rich mind speaks differently, regardless of age. It says, I cannot recover the years behind me, but I can compress the years ahead. If I stop wasting thought and action, I can achieve more in the next 5 years than I did in the last 20. When that inner lament, it is too late, rises, answer it with facts. There are men who began with less and later than I have. They did not waste the present grieving over the past. Neither will I. Then direct your thoughts toward the next concrete step. What can I do today that my future self will thank me for? Speak it. Then do it. Each such day is a quiet rescue mission, reclaiming pieces of a life you had almost thrown away. You do this rescue with sentences as much as with actions. As you continue this work, you will discover that your inner language begins to influence the outer language you use with others. You will stop speaking in jealous, defeated, or cynical tones, because those tones no longer match what you tell yourself. When you hear others groan, "Nothing ever works," you will not join the chorus. Your own mind will rebel against the lie. You may not argue, but you will at least think. That is not true. Something always works for the man who keeps adjusting. You will be less drawn to conversations that revolve around blame and more drawn to those that revolve around building. This shift in your surroundings is another form of wealth. Do not be surprised if certain companions drift away as your self-talk changes. Men who feed on complaint feel uncomfortable around someone who refuses to poison himself in the same way. They may accuse you of being proud or unrealistic. Let your inner speech answer calmly. I am not above anyone. I am simply unwilling to keep speaking words that chain me. They may continue if they wish. I choose differently. Then bless them silently and continue on your path. Your loyalty belongs first to the future you are building, not to the habits you are leaving behind. Finally, you must begin to see your inner language as a channel through which something greater than your conscious mind can work. Call it infinite intelligence. Call it the deeper mind. Call it the law of cause and effect in the realm of thought. Whatever name you give it. There is a reality beyond your daily awareness that responds to the ideas you hold and the words you repeat. When you keep telling yourself, "I am learning to think like a creator of wealth. I am seeking ways to serve more intelligently. I am ready to recognize opportunity," you are not only instructing your own faculties, you are also attuning yourself to suggestions, insights, and encounters that match that pattern. You will notice coincidences, a conversation that arrives just when you need it, a book that falls into your hands at the right time, a chance meeting that leads to new business. The poor mind calls this luck and still talks in defeat between strokes of good fortune. The rich mind sees these events as responses to the steady vibration of its inner language. It continues to speak clearly and act firmly, knowing that thought and life are bound by law. This is why it is so vital that your self-talk be clean, disciplined, and aligned with what you truly seek to build. You are tuning the instrument through which guidance, ideas, and strength can flow. A cracked, complaining instrument receives little and distorts what it does receive. A well-tuned, purposeful instrument becomes a channel for power. No one can tune it for you. You tune it every time you open your mouth inside your own head. By now, you see that learning how to talk to yourself to build a rich mindset is not a small embellishment to your life. It is the central craft. Around it, everything else gathers. Your habits, your courage, your skills, your relationships, your use of time, your handling of money. You have in your possession, at this very moment, the tool that determines whether all other tools will be used well or wasted. That tool is your tongue turned inward. Use it as you have been, and you will remain where you are, reinforcing your own chains. Use it as a man who has awakened to his responsibility, and you will, step by step, build a mind so rich that external wealth will one day seem not like a miracle, but like the natural consequence of who you have become. You now stand where very few men ever arrive. You have seen with plain eyes that the chief battle of your life is not with the world, but with the voice inside your own skull. Most never separate themselves from that voice long enough to recognize it as something they can govern. They mistake it for their identity. You no longer have that excuse. You know that what you say to yourself shapes what you believe, and what you believe shapes what you attempt, endure, and achieve. The question left is not whether this is true. The question is whether you will live as if it is true every day when no one is watching. You must now move from scattered effort to a definite program. A rich mindset is not built in occasional bursts of inspiration. It is built in rhythm, in daily practice. You need a simple structure that you can follow until right self-talk becomes as automatic as breathing. Begin with 3 anchors in your day: morning, mid-course, and night. Around these 3, your inner language will take shape. In the morning, before the world has crowded into your mind, you must plant your own seed. Rise and sit upright. Do not begin the day by replaying yesterday's worries or anticipating today's annoyances. This is your most fertile mental hour. Speak to yourself clearly. My mind is my instrument. I will not allow it to insult me or chain me today. I am a man who is building value, order, and character. I will treat my time, my work, and my money as tools, not toys. I will interpret every difficulty as training, not as doom. Choose your own sentences if you wish, but keep them definite. As you repeat them, feel the weight of decision behind them. You are not begging the day to be kind. You are commanding yourself to be strong. Do not attempt to memorize 20 phrases. That will scatter your attention. Select a small handful that strike you like iron and drive them deep by repetition. For example, I think like a builder, not like a victim. I speak to myself with respect, not contempt. I am responsible for my condition. Therefore, I am capable of improving it. Say them each day until you no longer have to recall them. They will arise on their own. When they arise on their own, they begin to work on their own. At mid-course, somewhere in the thick of your day, you must pause to take mental measurement. This need not require an hour. A few minutes, used with intensity, will suffice. Step aside from your tasks, sit quietly, and ask yourself, how have I been talking to myself today? Where did I allow the old voice to speak? Where did I obey the new one? Do not answer vaguely. Recall a specific moment of success. When that problem appeared, I did not say, I am cursed. I said, let me think. There is a way. That was a victory. Recall a specific lapse. When I felt tired, I muttered, this is pointless. Nothing changes. That was a failure. Speak these assessments aloud, even if softly. You are teaching your mind what to repeat and what to discard. Then renew your orders for the second half of the day. The morning is gone. I will not waste it regretting. The evening is not yet arrived. I will not spoil it with anxiety. I own this present stretch of hours. I will finish the most important tasks I have chosen. I will not speak about myself as if I were defeated. This mid-course correction keeps your self-talk from drifting back into old ruts as fatigue sets in. It is the mental equivalent of tightening the reins. At night, before sleep, you must close the day with deliberate thought. Most men fall into bed with their minds full of scattered impressions, complaints, vague fears, half-formed wishes. Their last inner words are, I'm exhausted. Tomorrow will be the same. I cannot keep this up. Then they wonder why they wake with no vigor. You must give your subconscious a different set of instructions to carry into the night. Review the day briefly. Acknowledge your failures without cruelty. Here I broke my promise to myself. That is not acceptable. I see why. I will adjust my environment or my plan so this temptation is weaker tomorrow. Acknowledge your successes without boasting. Here I obeyed my new voice. I persisted when I wanted to quit. I handled that conversation with more calm than before. That is progress. Then speak a final command. Today is over. I will not drag it into tomorrow as self-accusation. I have learned from it. That is enough. As I